Good morning. As mentioned, I'm Dave. I work at Inuits as an open source consultant. I'll be speaking a little bit about my experiences as my first 3 years as a sysadmin at Inuits. This isn't quite scripted and it's early, so forgive me if I make a lot of mistakes and it's a crappy talk. So yeah, essentially, as mentioned again, I started here. I went to school here for 2 years. When I came in here, I knew nothing about Linux, or Unix for that matter. I was a Windows guy, a power user if you would, because you couldn't really call it a sysadmin at that point. And I'm really glad I got the chance to learn Linux here, because I've been using Linux ever since, and I wouldn't even dare look back. So when I started here, I only knew Windows, and the point here is that you work half-time and you learn half-time. So they arrange it here as you work 1 week and the next week you come to school. They arranged that I could go and work for IT Partners, which is one of the other sponsors, I think a silver sponsor. They're purely a Windows operation, so that was normal for me in the beginning. And at first everything was going well, because that's all I knew, so sure, why not? But after a while I started seeing a lot of tasks that I had to repeat that I thought could be handled better with tools I had seen used in Linux. So I started trying to push Linux solutions in IT Partners, and of course they didn't really like that because they didn't know open source and they didn't see the value in it. So after a year or so we decided that we couldn't really agree on a vision and how we would do things, and we parted ways. I started looking for a new job along with Robert Keersen, who's a teacher here. And because he knew Chris Buitaert from Inuit so well, I eventually ended up at Inuits, which was a big surprise for me as well because, well, Inuits is software in Linux, and that was all very new for me. Before that I was really a hardware guy with just knowledge of Windows. So when I came to Inuits, I had very limited Linux knowledge, and I had to learn a lot of stuff in a really short time, actually. So I realized I had to learn how to learn, and learn how to first figure out things on my own. If that didn't work, go and ask other people for an explanation on how things worked, or see if I can interact with the community to actually get an explanation and see how things work. Which was really difficult because having to do all that without guidance, without people telling you what to do, is difficult at first. If you come from a school mentality where you always just get a bunch of papers pushed in your hands and they tell you what to do, they tell you what to learn and how to learn it, then it's like this big black hole where you fall into. You're just like, okay, so now what? I don't see the exit. Luckily, I could ask my colleagues at Inuits. I had Tom DV, who you can see back there with the piercings and everything. He's quite recognizable. He took great care of me. He told me where I could find some stuff, taught me some nice commands. And of course, Chris Buitaert, I think most of you know him. If not by face, then by name at least. He's great at, well, yelling at people in a way, but in a good way. He comes off as quite rude at first, but he really means well, and he's that's why I'm trying to save it now. So yeah, he's good at yelling at people, but he's also really good at directing people through the yelling. This is where my well, Babel ends, I really have no clue where to go from here. So essentially my first 3 years as a system administrator was, where do I go from here? Ask people for an explanation, try to figure it out by yourself, and see where you go from there. I'd like to thank the people from Don Bosco, because they actually provide really great guidance here, as well as the people from Inuits and IT partners, because, well, they do the same. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening.